Welcome back to Bottom of the Sixth. My name's Jason Teeter.
I'm Jack Kemler.
And I'm Will Anderson.
We're back for a great second semester, and we're going to hop it right into with the college football playoffs and the national championship. Will, give us the rundown.
Yep, national championship, Monday the 20th at 5:30 p.m. Of course, it's going to be the Ohio State Buckeyes, number 8, versus the number 7 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I mean, this is a matchup that we kind of all wanted. I mean, once we saw at the end of the bracket and stuff, maybe not us ASU fans, we might delve into a little bit that later, but Will Howard, Riley Leonard, Trayvon Henderson, Jeremiah Love, Jeremiah Smith, a lot of big names in this game. It's going to be a really good thing to watch.
It's really going to be good. I think we got to get into the nitty-gritty of this game. Let's talk about Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It is very obvious how they're going to have to play this game. They have to play at low scoring. If you get into some type of offensive battle against Ohio State, you are losing. There's no doubt about that. But we saw Ohio State in their 2 losses this year. That's when they had the close games, especially the Michigan game was a very low-scoring game, and that's kind of the blueprint that Notre Dame wants to go by, that low-scoring, very close game. Notre Dame is going to have to play very physical because Ohio State is kind of a soft team, but they right now offense through the first 3 games of the college football playoff, there was no offense even close to them.
Yeah, and I think what it's going to come down to is really how is this defense going to match up against these offensive weapons. We've seen them be slowed down over the year. The real question is Will Howard going to go out there and be a pick merchant? When the game that it becomes close, he comes out there and makes terrible decisions. And you saw against Penn State, they made Drew Atler look like a little kid back there. Yeah. They put him in high-pressure situations. They sent blitzes off at different edges, ran some stunts up front where he had to learn. And I don't know if Will Howard can withstand that.
Yeah, and then a big thing, you talked about that Ohio State defense. I want to talk about that Notre Dame defense because they're talking all week about how they will be playing man coverage against this Ohio State wide receiver unit that consists of guys like Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ibuka, guys like that who will get open against man coverage. If you remember, the last team to say explicitly we will be playing man coverage, Oregon, right before the Rose Bowl. Jack, how'd that go out for him?
That did not go well. I mean, Jeremiah Smith had a field day on that Rose Bowl, kind of like JSN 2 years before that, but look, you have to stop the receivers. You saw Texas did it very well with Jeremiah Smith. They bracketed him. They put 3 guys in his area, and Ibuka did play really well, and Carnell Tate played very well, but they only put up 21 points on offense, and that's something that Notre Dame, if they held them to 21, maybe even less than that, Notre Dame could win this game.
Well, and let's run it back to you guys came back to talking about Texas and the teams before. Let's kind of give an overview of what we've thought so far on this overall college football playoff. We've had the 12-team playoff this year, which is the first time in a while that we've had that play. It's the first time ever, right? So how do you think the fans liked it? How do the teams match up? What do you think, Will?
Yeah, so I'm going to start off, and the biggest argument this entire time has been, the seeding's bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to push back just a little bit, and this is why. Of course, the big thing is going to be that number 8 Ohio State versus number 9 Tennessee matchup. And I understand Ohio State and Tennessee, 2 of the best teams in the nation. But that's where they were seeded. I don't know what more people want. Yes, Ohio State shouldn't have been the number 8 seed, but they shouldn't have dropped one to Michigan at the end of the season. Tennessee shouldn't have lost to Arkansas in Arkansas. So I understand that. As far as the actual tournament itself, I think it was really cool. It provided opportunities for teams like Arizona State, like Boise State, like SMU. Obviously, ASU put up easily the best fight of maybe any team in this entire playoff, but it's giving these smaller schools who can still get to the top, that gives them an opportunity to compete for a national championship.
Yeah, I would say the 2 biggest thing that I want to criticize about the bracket was the byes. The byes are really tough. I mean, of course, if you're like Oregon, you deserve a bye, no doubt. But I believe it was the first half between all 4 bye teams in that quarterfinals. They averaged 6 points per the half in the first half. So they came out so slow, and we're going to have to change that. I mean, maybe you don't give them byes, or it's going to have to something has to change. And as well, I've talked about it a lot. Rose Bowl has to be the national championship.
Well, and if you look at it, all the 2 teams that did not get byes are here, and we're standing with it because of the momentum they gained from that first game. That was a warm-up, right? They're playing so low-seeded teams that, well, they should be there because they worked hard. They should be there, but they're not as strong as some of these bigger powerhouses. And you come out there and you look at it and okay, those are really warm-up games. So should teams be able to be yes, we want the bye? Should we not? So I think the 1 through 4, or at least that some top teams should have a choice. Do we want the bye and rest our guys and then play next week, or do we want to risk injury, give us a warm-up game, and then go from there?
Yeah, and the biggest thing with the bye for me is we talk about this in the NFL, and we'll get to it, is you talk about not playing for 2 weeks and guys are rusty. Well, these college kids, 18, 19 years old, didn't play for an entire month. They came out super flat. And then, like you said, talking about powerhouses versus some of these smaller teams, specifically Texas, Arizona State. Yes, Texas has probably better recruits, probably better condition, things like that. Arizona State put up a fight with them all game long, but you cannot tell me if ASU were to win that game, they would have a fighting chance against Ohio State just because of how physically drained that defense was and Cameron Skattebo were.
Yeah, and I think the best part about this bracket is Notre Dame. If you keep these buys, and Notre Dame will always have momentum because Notre Dame's never going to get a bye because they don't win a conference, so they're going to be 5-12 every single year. And if their team is this good or around the same caliber, then every single year they're going to have momentum. They're going to win their first round, and they're just going to move through momentum into the brackets.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they tweak this bracket coming into next season. It's also going to be interesting to see how Ohio State versus Notre Dame plays out later on this week into next weekend. So it's just going to be interesting to see what they tweak and where they go from this, because it's a good start, but they have to be able to finish.
It's trial and error.
Yeah. Now let's flip our focuses over to the UFC, where big news comes out today that Arman Tsarukyan has pulled out against Islam Makhachev. So the crazy thing is here, this totally shakes up that division, right? So if you look at it, after Arman and Islam, Charles was supposed to fight. Charles was in town in LA, and he is not fighting Islam because he did not have his camp. He did not have his coaches there, so he was not able to fight. Diego Lopez was also tried to get him there to have him fight. Instead, they have to go with Moncano, who was already preparing for a fight against Dariush on this card. Dariush is now the lone man out who doesn't get to fight in his own home city, but he does get paid. That's the one thing for him. He does get paid. But Moncano, he's prepared, had a full camp. He's already going with Dariush. Dariush is a southpaw, so he's already prepared for a southpaw and prepared for how the wrestling, because Dariush is a big wrestler, big southpaw. Islam is way better than Dariush, but he's still prepared, and the UFC had to scramble last minute. This is a terrible look on Arman Tsarukyan, because if this back problem was seriously a problem, you would have known days down the line. There's not like, Dana said they called at 1 a.m. and said, we can't go. You've known for days. This is a terrible look on you. You could have got Charles in there. You could have got guys who can compete for the title. So this pushes back now a Charles title shot, who we know is going to be after Islam and Arman. Because think about it. Islam fights this fight right here against Moncano, gets injured, and then has to recover, go into another full camp, then fight Arman. Winner of that, say if he wins. This is if he wins against Moncano, by the way. I don't want to give Moncano can still win somehow, pull it out, because he's money Moncano, right? Is on a great streak right now. But it's going to be a year down the road before we see Charles Oliveira fight again, and it is terrible. And I put it mainly on Arman, because people have said, not like directly, but he could be juicing, looking at how big he is.
So the first thing I talk about is Moicano. I mean, it's kind of a weird situation because he has 4 wins in a row, a lot of good wins. Saint Denis, Jalen Turner is a great win, but he's 35, so this is kind of like his last real run at the belt, and he's getting his fight here, but it just does feel a little early for him. But also he's getting the shot, so maybe you could have seen his next fight. It could have been the last one. He could have lost, and that could have been it. But he is getting the shot. It's tough. It's tough to not say. I mean, it's tough to not say Islam might just dominate this fight.
Oh yeah, the odds right now, minus 1,200 for Islam, plus 750 for Moncano. But don't get me wrong, Moncano has done some crazy things in his career. Let's flip over to some of the later cards, or to start the cards. We're gonna go all the way down to the prelims, and we're gonna talk about some of the guys who are coming up, because this is a loaded prelims, right? You have Grant Dawson down there in the lightweight division fighting Diego Ferreira, which is gonna be a good fight. Grant Dawson's on a good little streak right now. His only loss came a couple fights ago, and you have guys like Peyton Talbot, who's one of the people love him. He's their wonder boy now at the bantamweight division. Cut off his hair. He's an athlete. He's a great prospect. And then to start the main card, Kevin Holland versus DeRuyter. Any Kevin Holland fight is entertaining as can be, right? You never know whether he's gonna get knocked out or knock somebody out. That's how it is. Now, Almeida versus Supich is kind of like a little bit of like a at heavyweight because it's going to be a lot of wrestling. Almeida loves to wrestle, and that's the problem with him. He's never really going to compete for a spot at the top of the heavyweight division, but he will always be there because of his wrestling. Then we got Yuri versus Jamal Hill. I expect Yuri to wipe the floor with Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill has been running his mouth. He is overweight, looks very fat right now. Fat with a PH. Fat. He is fat right now. And if Yuri doesn't walk the floor with him, I will be disappointed.
So where do you think Hill goes after this if he loses? I mean, he's favored in this fight, and if he wins it, he can maybe even get another title shot down the road. But if he loses, where does he go? Because he got the lucky title shot, and he got the lucky win, and after that, it's been downhill since.
To be honest with you, I don't know, man. Jamal Hill has been just the way he has presented himself in the media after that loss to Alex. Alex swiped the floor with him. I will keep it like that. Khalil Roundtree has been the biggest test for Alex, and Jamal's just been running his mouth. Khalil should have been fighting against Jamal right now, but with that injury is what it is, right? But I think Yuri wins this fight, and Jamal Hill, what does he do, retire, or does he stay
Well, he's young. He's really young.
I'm saying, does he stay the gatekeeper of the light heavyweight division? Because you're going to have to come back, fight some guys who are in the 8, 7, 6, 5 range before you get another guy like Yuri or Alex or Jan Blachowicz. I mean, that could happen with Jan Blachowicz fighting Carlos in a couple months. You can get the winner of that fight and then go from there, but I just don't know. And then we're going to talk about the bantamweight title fight between Merab and Numar, right? Khabib is going to have to corner 3 guys this weekend, one of them being Numar, and Merab is on a good streak right now. I looked at it. I was a Merab hater for a long time, but I looked at his streak that he's been on, guys he's beat. Yeah. Yes, Cejudo's been old. Yes, Sean did not look great, but he did that. He is putting up work, and I don't want people to count him out because he's the underdog right now. And I think that mentality, he's had that mentality his whole career. So you come into this fight as Merab, you have the title. You need to end that Nurmar uprising, right? Because he's been kind of like a little. They think that he's going to out-wrestle Merab, and I think that doesn't happen.
That's very tough to say. I mean, Merab is probably the best wrestler in the UFC right now. I mean, it's the run he's on. Thing about Umar, he's got a lot of film on Merab. I mean, especially that Sean O'Malley fight, he could take a lot from those 5 rounds and where he can shoot, where he can kind of take his advantage. But it's crazy. I mean, he's 250. He's minus 250 in odds. If you are a betting man, you kind of want to look at Merab in the plus 205. That's pretty good odds for the champion.
Yeah, but I mean, in Khabib's career, you never get bet against him, especially Islam and Nurmah. If you don't bet against him, I think they're saw a little thing that they're 79-1 when they're favorites. You can't bet against them, and it's crazy. It's going to be a great weekend for the UFC, and it's going to be interesting to see how that lightweight title and bantamweight title come out. Let's flip our focuses now to the NFL, where we are in the divisional round, and some teams are hanging around, and we're seeing teams that are going to actually be contenders. Will, give us a rundown.
Yeah, so the divisional weekend, let's start on Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN ABC. We're going to have the Texans traveling to Arrowhead, face Patrick Mahomes. Then the nightcap, 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox, Washington at the Lions, 2 teams who we didn't see 3 years ago competing the way they are now. Sunday, we're going to start off L.A. at Philly, 3 p.m. Eastern on NBC, last broadcast for them. And then, of course, the game everybody's going to wait for, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, CBS, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo calling Lamar versus Josh. Ravens at Bills in Highmark Stadium for another chance to hopefully play and beat Mahomes.
Yeah, in my opinion, I love 3 of these games. I love Chiefs-Texans. I love Bills-Ravens, of course, and then Eagles-Rams. Lions-Commanders. Jay Daniels an amazing performance in the first round. Beating the Buccaneers on the road in Ford Field. I don't know. There's not many this is, I think, 95% chance Lions win this game. Oh, yeah. But Eagles-Rams is a great one. I mean, Rams are hot. The Rams are really hot. Eagles did not look that good in the Packers game. And then you got Bills-Ravens. You got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, top 2 in MVP voting. Sounds like Lamar's probably going to get it, but I mean, Josh can just kill that narrative right now if he wins this game, and then Lamar will stay on that narrative that he can't really win in the playoffs.
Yeah, and this is, of course, for anyone wondering, the MVP is decided before the playoffs start, so this game will not have any impact on the actual playoffs. But like I said, this is the game that everyone's going to be waiting for, because to me, this is the, in quotations, who gets another shot at Mahomes Bowl. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen between the Texans and the Chiefs, but one can assume Patrick Mahomes is probably going to make it to his, 7th or 8th straight AFC Championship. He doesn't know football prior to the AFC Championship in a season, so there's that. And then, you got to think about it. these guys are two different guys when you think about types of quarterbacks. They're kind of the two prototypes you want right now. It's Lamar Jackson, who's super fast, who's super agile, get around the edge and you're scared of him, but he can pass pretty good too. And there's Josh Allen, the strong arm, the strong upper body, the really big, strong, tough guy. They're two different quarterbacks, but I mean, the two probably best quarterbacks all season long. It's going to be super interesting to see them play against each other. And they've both, just real quick, they've both said they're not playing each other, they're playing the defenses. So don't put this as Josh versus Lamar because they don't see it that way.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that game is going to be Zay Flowers. He has been doubtful all week, and if he doesn't play, that's a big hit to that offense, right? Rashad Bateman's going to have to step up. Honestly, I think Josh Allen has is more hungry than Lamar because he wants a shot at. He wants a shot at Mahomes in that AFC Championship game. He wants to end their season, right? So I think. Yes, Mahomes is playing the Texans, right? And yes, this game could go either way. And Mahomes and the Chiefs are 0-2 when playing at 4:30 Eastern. Just think about that. Put that in the back pocket, right? As a betting man, you got to know and play the times and the odds. And then the last time they played the Texans, they were down big time, right? In the playoffs and came back. Hey, they might have a little magic in their back pocket, but let's expect that the Chiefs pull it out.
If I had to pick underdog this weekend, I had to pick an upset. I'm taking the Texans. You saw in Week 16 at Arrowhead, Chiefs won 27-19 against the Texans. Stroud threw 2 interceptions in the first half. They turned into 10 points for the Chiefs. Stroud's going to have to limit the turnovers, no doubt, but he's cerebral enough to do that. After last game, Texans are picking up some momentum on defense. They played Herbert very well. It's just the tough part is Mahomes, stats-wise in the playoffs, 41-8 touchdown to interception rating, 105 passing rating. This is what he does in the playoffs. He has an okay regular season, and then the playoffs, he is a different man.
Well, and what happened there was that same game is when they lost Tank Dell. So who's going to step up on that offense and really show? Because that offense was looking really well until Tank Dell went out.
Or do they need somebody to step up, or is it just Nico playing well? Because Nico had, 130 against the Chargers, and they played well.
Yeah, and Nico's a dog, and that's the thing. He can he can take the top off of this defense because this defense is playing
no more
subpar.
Snead. No more Snead on the Chiefs anymore. They can't really take out their top guy.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like this defense isn't as good as they were. Spags, he always has a great defense, but they're not as good as years prior. Let's flip our focuses over to the Eagles-Rams game because some people have said that game has upset potential for the Rams. What do y'all think?
Yeah, so with the Rams being 6-point underdogs, I mean, I really like that. If you
it's a lot of points.
+6 Rams all day long. But I've seen now it's going to be a cold weather game. Southern California. I'm not going to buy too much into the weather aspect of it. But when you add on to the fact what football produces in cold weather, it's a lot of running. It's a lot of O-line. Who's got the best O-line in the league? Who's got the best rushing offense in the league? It's the Philadelphia Eagles.
There's no doubt about it. But I think Stafford will have time in the pocket. I think their passing game is going to work a lot. Although Eagles have the number 1 pass defense in the league, Kupp and Nakua are so smart. Their route running is so amazing. I don't think the pass game is going to matter. Also, Eagles are 28th in pressure rate. I think Stafford will have time. I think the receivers will get open. It just comes down to Rams passing versus Eagles running. But also it comes down to Jalen Hurts if he's going to actually play well because against the Packers, he did not at all.
Yeah, and some of the things you got to think about with that Eagles offense is can they get Saquon started early? He had a quiet game. Yes, it was 119 yards, but when he has his game and he can take control, eat the clock, but also gain yards, that Eagles offense is so different because A.J. Brown then opens up when they drop guys into the box, and you're looking at a whole different ballgame. And then going back to the Rams offensive side, it's really can Stafford come up in big moments? Frat Stafford has been doing it for a long time, right? He is a very seasoned veteran. It's can they get to the ball to the guys in tight spaces, and can they have Kyron kind of give them a momentum that they really need to get going.
Yeah, and then I think a big thing, too, is going to be just the entirety of that Rams defense. Obviously, we saw that young defensive line. They ate all night long against Sam Darnold, but you got to think about it. When you think of the Eagles receivers, it's A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They're not really take the top off the defense. They're contested catches. They're at the point of attack. And that's what they're great at. Don't get me wrong. But if you're the Rams and you can generate just enough pressure, Jalen Hurts only 3 times this year has gone over 250 passing. He's looked so pretty much since Week 12 on, the last time they played the Eagles and the Rams. So if you're the defense, just stay close. Stay locked up with Brown, with Smith. Make them make contested catches. Get in Jalen Hurts' face. This is a real legitimate shot, I think, for the Rams.
Yeah, you're totally right because Jalen Hurts is last week against the Packers. He did not really play that well. and he's coming off the injury of the concussion. His first concussion of his football career, he said. It's the first time he's ever had it, but he still practiced all week, and it's going to be really tough for the Rams. They have to get pressure on him.
It's going to be a very interesting week for the NFL and how it will all play out. But let's kind of finish the show out. Maybe we got a little bit extra, but let's finish the show out with some college basketball, right? Big upset yesterday for Oregon State against Gonzaga. Jack, give us kind of a rundown of what you're thinking about college basketball and the state of it right now.
Yeah, I want to talk about the state of it. If you guys don't know what net rating is, just pick a quick spark note. It's your offensive rating and your defensive rating, but your offensive rating minus by your defensive rating. So let's go with the best conferences in the past year. So last year, Big 12 plus 9.2 rating. 2023, Big 12 plus 8.1. 2022, Big 12 plus 9. 2021, Big 10 plus 4.9. 2020, Big 10 plus 6.8. So you see the highest one was 9.2. The lowest was 4.9. That was the past 5 years. Let's get to the SEC this year, plus 20. SEC is plus 20 rating. That is 10.8 higher rating than it's the highest it's been the last 5 years. But you also look down the list. You got Big 12 plus 14.6, Big 10 plus 13.9, Big East plus 10.6. So all of them are higher than those 5 years. And what is it? It's the transfer portal. You can easily tell it's those non-Power 4 guys that are juniors, seniors, very experienced. They transfer over to these big Power 4 schools, and they take over the teams. And that's the experienced teams now are winning. The SEC this year is insane. 8 teams inside the KenPom top 25, 10 in the top 40. There's only 16 teams in the SEC, 10 in the top 40. That is insane. SEC conference right now, it's looking like maybe the best of the century.
Yeah. And if you look at it, Auburn's wiping the 4. They're getting consensus votes, right?
I'm getting in there.
They're 15-1. Like, that's crazy work.
Yeah, I was bringing it back from the first semester, Jack's top 5, and we're starting off with Auburn, and it's not close. They are 9-1 in the quad 1 right now. Their only loss was by 6 to Duke and Cameron Indoor, which is like this probably the best loss you can have. They had the best offensive rating in the country by a whole 6 points, and their past opponents this season, defensive rating combined is number 1. That shows you a lot. They have the best offense in the country, and their opponents have the number 1 defensive rating in the country. That is insane from Auburn. Second hardest strength of schedule as well in the nation so far this season. Only have that 1 loss. Johni Broome is injured right now, and what do they do in the next game right after he got injured? Against the number 15 team in the country, they win by 20. It's insane against Mississippi State. Johni Broome should be back soon, and even without him, they're still a top 5 team. They have an absolute gauntlet coming up on the road. Number 23 Georgia, number 21 Ole Miss, number 4 Alabama, number 8 Kentucky, number 11 Texas A&M, all on the road. That's going to be tough for them, but right now, if they didn't lose to Duke, we are talking about maybe the best team of this century. It is insane what Auburn is doing right now with the basketball. Now let's talk about Duke at number 2, 15-2, number 3 offense, number 2 defense in the country, Cooper Flagg. You got only 4 quad 1 wins was the tough part about Duke, but there's a chance for a lot more. They got Wake, they got Clemson, UNC, Illinois throughout the season. The best thing about this Duke team is that they dominate on the road. Beat Arizona by 14, Louisville by 11, SMU by 27. Talking about Cooper Flagg, man, he leads a team in all standard stats: points, assists, rebounds, blocks, and steals. That's crazy stuff from the 18-year-old freshman. And then the lack of opponents in the ACC could really hurt this team in March. But I would say that's really just the biggest concern looking at the Duke Blue Devils. Number 3, Iowa State. 6 players scoring 10 or more points with the 5th best defense in the country. You got to sign me up for that team. They're 9-1 currently in the quad 1 and 2 combined, with their only loss by 2 against Auburn. They also have no more ranked teams at home, but they play Houston and Kansas on the road. They need to steal one of those to keep their number 3 ranking going. Iowa State has not had a team inside the top 50 of offensive rating in the past 2 years. This year, they have the number 8 team in offensive rating, number 5 in defense. This team is really dangerous. Number 4, Florida. Not a team on my preseason radar at all, and they have impressed me a ton. Probably the best win in the country this year, beating Tennessee by 30 at home. Walter Clayton is such a pure scorer, 18 points per game on 45% shooting. You parlay that with Elijah Martin and Will Ricard. All 3 at the guard position. They have the best backcourt in the country. Condon has been a solid force down low, 8 rebounds per game. The next month for them will tell a lot. Their second best win is still number 34, UNC. But the next month, home Georgia, away Tennessee, away Auburn, away Miss State will tell a lot if this team is certified. Then the last one, number 5, Tennessee, 15-1, 5-1 record in the quad 1. It's great stuff from this team in Knoxville. Of course, the loss to Florida opened up a lot of eyes. They were the number 1 team in the country, and then that really bad loss. But I think they should be fine. Wins on the road against Illinois and Texas definitely legitimizes this team. But just like Florida, they're going to have to certify themselves in the next month Listen to the schedule. This is all quad 1 games. Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Auburn, Kentucky, Florida, Missouri, Oklahoma, Kentucky. Then they have a quad 2 against Vanderbilt. Then they have 4 more quad 1s, Texas A&M, LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss. Tennessee has their hands full up until April, and they are going to have to improve their offense if they want to get a number 1 seed in March, only the number 24 offense in the country.
Well, and think about it. We're about 2.5 months away from March Madness. So teams are going to have to start focusing, and we're really going to see who are contenders now and who can fly up the rankings. Because, yes, that big loss to Tennessee, or Tennessee's big loss to Florida, really showed everybody, wow, this Tennessee team might not be ready. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see whether they can survive the gauntlet of what is the SEC this year. So now we're going to finish it out with a little bit of MLB news. Roki Sasaki signs with the Dodgers after saying he wants to go to a mid-tier team with pitching development. It's interesting to see that he does not go to a mid-tier team after canceling teams out like the Giants. He should have gone, in my eyes, to like Toronto or San Diego. What do you guys think?
I definitely thought San Diego. I mean, you see San Diego, they're kind of a pitching school. Like they turn pitchers from not good into great. Prime example, Seth Lugo, a couple other guys they've had. But like, and the Dodgers, you look at them, there's so many players, especially Dustin May. You got Glasnow. You have so many, Bobby Miller, so many players that, have bright futures, and then they tailor UCL. Or it just kind of feels like Dodgers overwork their pitchers or don't teach them the right things. The Padres feel like they do.
Yeah, and every single one of their pitchers in that starting rotation is not homegrown.
No.
For all the talk about the Dodgers farm system and how good they are, they can't seem to develop pitchers. So, like you said, Jason, the fact that Sasaki claimed he wanted to go to a team that would develop him as a pitcher really doesn't make sense. We knew this entire time he was going to the Dodgers. Yeah. You have, obviously, the connection with the fact that they're the best team in baseball, one of the best rosters ever compiled, probably. And then, there is some weight behind that. There's Japanese players there like Shohei, like Yamamoto. That's going to play a role in a guy coming over from Japan.
Yeah, the MLB is almost 69 days away from pitchers and catchers showing up. It's going to be an interesting time. Hey, thank you all for tuning in. Have a safe and happy Friday night. I'm Jason Teeter.
I'm Jack Kemmler.
And I'm Will Anderson.
Have a safe and fun Friday night.
Peace.
See y'all.